Today's gospel is one of those stories I remember very, very clearly from my childhood. It was a story I'd heard told a number of times, and indeed the Bible I was given by my godmother at my baptism has a very dramatic picture showing this story, and in it we see some terrified disciples drenched by the waves engulfing their small boat, as Jesus stands, hands raised, and he's glowering at the storm, or possibly at the disciples. All very dramatic. And from looking at the picture, it's quite understandable why the disciples would have been fearful and afraid. Even the seasoned fishermen, for whom storms were presumably an occupational hazard. And I can remember thinking as a child that Jesus was being a bit hard on the disciples by saying, "Why are ye so fearful?" My baptism Bible was a King James version, hence the Shakespearean language. And also a bit surprised as surely the reason was obvious and their reaction quite reasonable. Their boat was about to sink. There's a lot going on here in this short passage, and sometimes the focus is given to it illustrating that Jesus has command over the whole of creation, illustrated by him calming the storm, and then the disciples' reaction to this with them, as often happens in the Gospels, asking themselves the questions that we would probably ask if we were there. Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Indeed, this is the focus in my study Bible at home. Plus, it also adds a commentary on how the geography of Lake Galilee and the topography of the surrounding hills can lead to sudden storms, because I was wondering, well, it's only a lake, surely it's not going to be that dangerous sailing across it. And the commentary also mentions the cushion on which Jesus was sleeping, a little tiny detail that Mark gives us. But my Bible tells me that it was typical of boats used at the time, and it was used by the coxswain. Though not mentioned in my study Bible, perhaps this little detail is to hint that even though he was asleep, Jesus was still in the position of responsibility for steering the direction of the boat. Even more reason, perhaps, why it's perfectly reasonable to think that the disciples would want to wake him when the boat starts to sink. But I'm digressing. This isn't what I want to focus on in the talk this morning. No, I want instead to focus on fear, the perfectly understandable fear of the disciples. Now, to explore this in a little more detail, we need to spend a moment or two with some ancient Greek, the language, that is, not Odysseus or some other character from Homer. The Greek word typically used for fear is phobos, from which we get our word phobia, and which is used to describe various fears such as arachnophobia, arithmophobia, or phobophobia. Fear of spiders, numbers, and the last one, the extreme fear of being afraid. In today's passage, the phrase in the final verse where it says in our translation, "they were terrified," comes from the Greek word phobos. But in the previous verse, what we heard today as Jesus asking, "Why are you so afraid?" or in my old King James Bible, "Why are ye so fearful?" In that verse, the original Greek doesn't use the word phobos. It uses a different word, delos. In the version we heard today, this word is translated as afraid, or as I say in the King James Version, is fearful. But my ancient Greek dictionary suggests that it could be better translated as timid. Now, okay, I understand that some of you are sitting there, perhaps even all of you are sitting there thinking, well, so what? Timid is a sort of fear, isn't it? Albeit perhaps not quite as much fear as afraid, but if there was a scale, it's on there somewhere. It is a form of fear. And if that's the case, why is it that Mark, writing today's passage, why did he choose two different words in the space of only a line or two? Was he trying to point out some difference between the fear of Phobos and the timidity of Delos? Fear is something that can paralyze. It takes away our ability to act rationally. Think perhaps of the rabbit caught in the car's headlights, the fear so great that it's unable to move or rationally move out of harm's way. But let's back up a bit and set the context of today's passage. In the lead up to getting into this boat, the disciples have seen him heal many people of a variety of ailments. They've heard him teach on a variety of topics, and they have been chosen by him to be his special followers. In Mark 3, we are told that they were chosen that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. The disciples had been coached and prepared, but when the storm arose, they still called on Jesus to get them out of a fix. They aren't yet ready. As we see if we read the rest of Mark's Gospel, they get plenty more teaching from Jesus before they have to go out on their own. Except, of course, they don't go out on their own. They go out with the power of the Holy Spirit, as indeed do we each week when we are sent forth from this place in the power of the Spirit. And out they go, bringing the message to many, as we read in the book of Acts. In the boat, the disciples were too timid to deal with the storm on their own. They weren't yet ready, but with extra support, they were then able to go out and tell others and share the good news. And I wonder how many of us might feel like those disciples in that boat. We feel unprepared and timid. We worry that we don't yet know enough. We worry that we might make fools of ourselves. We worry that we might alienate those around us. And so we think it best to leave others to calm the storm or to share the good news. In the introduction to this week's email update, I wrote about how we are called by Jesus to go out and to share the gospel, the good news, with others. Make disciples of all nations, as Matthew puts it at the end of his gospel. But that can be daunting. And yet, because others have done it before. They've gone out and they've shared the gospel with others, who have shared it with others, who've shared it with others, up to someone sharing it with each of us. And because of that, we are here today. We have heard about Jesus. One aspect of my continuing training as a curate is to lead a mission and ministry project in my final year, which then I will write up as a portfolio in January 2025. It's been agreed that I will use this project to look at how we can help our congregations to build more confidence in sharing their faith and telling others about the good news. I'll be looking into what individuals want or need so that they feel better prepared for telling others about Jesus. And to do this, I'm hoping to work with a small group of people, about 6 to 8 people, drawn from across our congregations and a variety of ages. Now, these people don't need to be confident in sharing their faith or know all the answers. I don't either. But by working together, I hope that we will explore what might be helpful for us. I anticipate that we will need to meet as a group 4 or 5 times between September and December, whilst in between meetings, each of us will chat with other members of the congregation to gather their thoughts and ideas, so that everyone who wants to has an opportunity to be involved. And I hope that we will then be able to share our findings with the rest of the ministry team and with the PCC to suggest ideas or activities that we could offer here through church to help support us all as we share our faith with others. I hope that in a small way we can become a little less delios, we can become a little less timid about telling others about our faith, so that we feel better able to go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, or if not all nations, at least tell a few other people who then start on their own journey of faith, and perhaps in time are able to go and tell others who tell others, and so the gospel continues to be shared. Amen.
I gather last night's concert went really well. That's why we've got the racked seating behind us. And there's another one at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Whether there's still tickets available for that, I'm not sure. But I'm sure if you want to come along, do. Various things happening this week. Included in the prayers, Wallace Clapperton. Wallace and Kathy live at Heron House along the path. He's having a graveside burial at 10 on Wednesday, and then a service of Thanksgiving here in church at 2:30. Raina Free's funeral is going to be on the 2nd of July. That's at 12 o'clock here. Then there will be refreshments, and then we'll take Raina up to the Lee, where she'll be buried alongside her late husband. So that's then. Robert's funeral is on Monday the 8th of July at 1:30 at St Anne's, and that will be a Requiem Mass. Joyful bit of news is that next Saturday at 11:30, Anne, who's sitting at the back there, Anne, who's one of our bell ringers, and Nigel are getting married, so please be praying for them, and the continued good weather, but perhaps not quite the spike that it sounds like we're getting in the middle of the week, because that might be a bit warm, but that is happening. Trying to think what else. Yes. Concerts continue. So next Sunday at 3 o'clock, there's a concert by the group of Bucks young musicians, some of whom live in the village, and they're going to be holding a concert raising money for UNICEF, and it says that the music includes Mendelssohn's Piano Trio and Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, which I love. Sadly can't come. So if you are interested in that, please, I'm not quite, whether we've got tickets at the shop, I'm sorry, I should know that. We haven't, okay. I'm sure it'll be an occasion where you can just turn up for that. And next Sunday as well, there's a walk starting from the clock tower at 2:30 and a circular walk sort of that includes Halton. And you'll probably be able to get tea and cake at Halton because they're doing afternoon teas during the summer as well. And then Wendover Music Concert on the 7th of July. Next Sunday, it's the 5th Sunday of the month, so you can have an extra hour in bed. So please come at 10 o'clock to our joint service. And in that service, we've done quite a bit of consultation about what our vision should be, our future plans should be. And we're going to share some of where that's all come to with you next week. So please do come along to that. Thank you.